So we just like recap, right, what an anxiety attack might look and feel like. It's basically your automatic nervous system, where your body, we are survival beings, so your body's in a state of fight, flight or freeze, and often it's the fight, response that's been activated, right? So your amygdala is pumping out like lots of different chemicals into your body, and your heart rate rises, and you feel like your breath starts to get more rapid. Often we interpret that as a heart attack, which is not, it's just the body. And then we have a whole range of symptoms like feeling sweaty in the palms, wanting to go to the toilet, tightness in the throat. And these sensations for some people, specifically like Kristen, are really intense, right? Which means that she's really in touch with her body. So when this happens, it's really quite overwhelming. So the second thing that happens is that people can easily become overwhelmed by their own sensations. And that's when we get more panicky, right? So we can just like hold on to our breath and we can stop breathing, right?
So it's like fear of the fear itself.
Yeah, so then we have, and there is an actual term for that, anxiety sensitivity in the field of psychology, where a person, child, adult, adolescent is actually very frightened of their own physical sensations. So when they start to panic, they just go into more panic because they're panicking, right? So does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's that feeling of you could almost go crazy and lose the plot, but I suppose if you're thinking that way, then you're probably not going crazy.
Well, often we don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's seen that movie As Good As It Gets with Jack Nicholson,
Yes.
where he goes to the hospital in an ambulance, right? He thinks he's having a heart attack, and they diagnose him with a stress attack, It's that sort of thing. It's quite funny. But, it's not really at the time. So what my approach, I did my PhD in the early intervention and prevention of anxiety and depression in childhood. And my approach from that is prevention, how you manage and prevent yourself getting to the point where you have a panic attack. So I would suggest, a daily practice of self-care, which would mean like, if you started your day, for example, if you are a person who's easily activated in your environment by stresses, which we have many, money, people, pollution. There's a lot of things in our life right now that activate us and will activate your survival mechanism in terms of your limbic system.
And just to confirm, survival mechanism is handy in places or situations where you actually need to survive, but they're quite intrusive if nothing's wrong, right?
But that's the problem, right? So our body is designed, right? The fight-flight automatic nervous system, limbic system in our brain, which, by the way, people with ADHD have a different wiring of their limbic and their neurological systems, right? Is nowadays, right? Once upon a time, we needed that to get out of the way of a racing, boar or tiger, right? So ancestral wise, right, we're designed to make sure we don't die, right? But nowadays, the stresses are actually either internal, they're our own worries about the future, and they tend to be more like day-to-day living stresses, right? And
also like past trauma too,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
So our body doesn't know, our brain, our mind doesn't know the difference between past and present, right? So when you have a flashback or you have a memory or you feel like, it doesn't actually know that this is all in your mind,
It can feel as real as, the day it happened, I think.
We'll do another video about the pathways of trauma and how memories are stored in our unconscious mind and in our body, and what happens when those memories get activated, because we'll be right back there, and we might have been 5 years old and had a trauma of something happen, and we could be 55 and it could feel like yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's really important how we learn how to process that and release that and
Definitely.
learn. Yeah. So my whole idea, right, is really that whether we've got ADHD, whether we've got anxiety, whether we've got, it doesn't really matter. We live in a very stressful society right now. So my whole approach is to adopt a daily routine which you naturally learn to manage your stress levels, and that is, we have a relaxation system within our body with a whole heap of chemicals to make us feel good, and we need to access those.
Building a toolkit, right?
Yeah,
like
so,
that's specific to you.
Yeah, and unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, that toolkit has to involve some sort of exercise. I'm sorry to tell you, right, there's no way around it, right?
There really is.
Whether it's just a gentle walk along a park, take the dog, whether it's just walking your dog every day, but breathing as you go, whether it's going sitting on the beach and doing some very gentle stretching. Yoga, of course, is phenomenal, right, for all of us, right? And we don't have to sit in a lotus position or do headstands or anything like that. There's something called restorative yoga, yin yoga, even just anything that involves a stretching of the body, because you're sending oxygen to the brain. And you
see cats and dogs stretching all the time, don't they? And you kind of think, we should stretch more.
whether it's like going to Zumba class.
Oh, yeah.
It's about finding some way to move your body. Because when you move your body and you breathe, you get your oxytocin, you get your serotonin, you get all these chemicals that are sitting in our body waiting to be released, but we only can do that through movement.
And that makes a lot of sense because I had a car accident 3 years ago and I couldn't do any exercise for periods. Like if I had a flare up, I couldn't exercise for a month or two. And I found I really, really struggled and my brain was a lot more busy and I was a lot more anxious. So that makes perfect sense.
One of those things would be, the daily practice would be some sort of like time where you can just go for a gentle walk or do even some of those aqua aerobics things or swim. The other self-care strategy that I'm really strong on is time to yourself. Now, women particularly aren't very good at sitting down and doing nothing. Right, they always feel like they need to be doing something, like whether it's pack lunch boxes or clean the house. Or
And do you think that just comes into like gender roles as well?
we're sort of we've been designed historically, you know, it's in our genes, right, to be the sort of caregiving, doing sort of person. But so to sit down and do what I would call 1 hour a day or 30 minutes a day of totally selfish, like relaxation, which means
Bubble bath.
not feeling guilty, like reading a book.
No regrets.
No regrets. Like no
regrets whatsoever.
Don't feel guilty about looking after your body, right? Your body's your temple. And if you're feeling overwhelmed because you've got so much on, that 1 hour, 30 minutes a day, right? And alone, right? Because that's the other thing. A lot of people with ADHD, they're actually introverted. And introverted means that they need time on their own to process their day and to recover. Some people, Kristen's an extrovert. So she gets her energy and she gets her energy restored and repaired through interaction with others. But a lot of people with ADHD are the opposite. They're introverted and they need to be in solitude.
Well, I also need a bit of downtime as well, just for my sensory processing, I would say too, just to kind of give my brain a bit of a break that way as well. What I keep hearing from adults is getting some kind of a sensory input to kind of self-soothe. So for me, when I'm really upset, I'll lie on the bed and my cat will lie on top of me. So that's kind of almost like my own version of a way to blanket. Pets are really, really great therapists as well. I mean, the best therapist comes with 4 legs sometimes, and they're really wonderful. Pets as well, if you're having a meltdown or something like that, they don't care. Like, they just love you. You don't have to talk. You can just sort of snuggle up to them and cuddle them. And I think the research shows that pets are really great as well.
So there's some research coming out now, like the essential oils like lavender, and they can actually be really good to
contribute to that sensory experience,
to calm down the nervous systems. So there's some of the, a couple of things that you could do just every day, like a little walk, a little bit of activity. There are a few tips. I mean, there's plenty more treatment strategies.
And always just like tweak it and tailor it to work to you specifically. And we really look forward to hearing what works for you as your self-soothing strategies. Thanks for watching. See you next time.